What's up, guys, and welcome to the Tim Sports Talk. And today we're doing something a little bit different. We have an NFL teams tier list, and I'm sure by the end of this, we'll all come together and agree and sing Kumbaya in the comments below, and everybody will understand how correct this list is by the end of it. Of course, that's not the case. You guys will tear me apart in the comments as usual, but you guys let me know what you guys think in the comments below. So I set this up in like a wins deal. Like, where do I think they can get like max wins kind of, right? So we have can win at least 14 games, 12 to 13 wins, 11, 12, so on and so forth, and then 6 or less is kind of like the worst teams in the league. And that's where we'll start, right here at the bottom. And we're starting with the Jets. And I like Robert Saleh, the new head coach, and I think Joe Douglas is a pretty good GM. And I think they're going to be able to move in the right direction when they get Zach Wilson, and they have a couple more first-round picks. And I think that they're a team, they're obviously rebuilding, and they could go up, but this season I do not see them very high, 6 or wins or less. Who else do we got here? We have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville Jaguars just hired Urban Meyer, and they're going to get Trevor Lawrence, and they're actually a team that could surprise. I'm not going to lie. They have some interesting pieces. They had a lot of cap, and they went out and bought some people. So it's not like they can't, but at the same time, I just don't see, like, I don't know how Urban Meyer is going to be at the NFL level. He's more of a college coach, so we'll see what he can bring. But for now, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars at the bottom of the heap. Then another team is the Lions. The Lions, I do not believe in Jared Goff. Jared Goff is not a very good quarterback. We will see that sooner rather than later, because we will see that it was Sean McVay's offense that made Jared Goff look a whole lot better. The coach is an interesting guy, but it's like he's kind of like that hard-nosed linebacker dude, whatever. But I don't see the Lions being very good. They don't have a whole lot of weapons over there. They do have Swift at running back, the TJ Hawkinson at at tight end, but they don't have a receiver because Kenny Golladay left. I guess they have Marvin Jones as their top receiver, and I think they got Tyrell Williams or something. So overall, not really a fan of the Lions. I don't see them having a very good season. And the last team in this list is the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are probably going to be the worst team in the league, number 1 overall, if Deshaun Watson doesn't play. If Deshaun Watson play, they always have a chance, but even with Deshaun Watson last year, they won only 4 games. The team is garbage. I don't like the head coach at all that they got, Cully or whatever from Baltimore. He was the passing coordinator for the Ravens. The worst passing offense in the league, and that's who the Texans choose to hire to work with Deshaun Watson. Eric Bieniemy was just 2 weeks away from being after the Super Bowl, and you could go after him and hire him as the head coach. No, instead we hire David Culley or whatever his name. I know Chris likes to call him Cooley. Whatever, whoever he is, he should not have been the head coach, and the Houston Texans will suck. All right, so that's the bottom of the heap. Next up, we have like that 7 to 8 wins team is like kind of the cap. They're probably going to end up below 500, but they're not very good, and yet they could always surprise a team or two, right? We're going to put the Patriots in that list. And honestly, the Patriots could go in this list because I don't think they're an extremely talented team, but they're one of the best coached teams ever, and especially in today's league. So I think they could get back. Like, I don't think they should have any business to go 7-9 this year, and I think they could end up right around the same spot, just below 500, because it's a 17-game series, or season, I should say. And Bill Belichick, I think, will get them to win some games that they shouldn't be winning, but they're just not a very good team altogether, and I have them at 7 to 8 wins. All right. Broncos. Broncos are a team, like, the defense is starting to wane. You don't have that great 2014, 2015 defense anymore. Von Miller's not there anymore. And their defense is starting to fade. Now, Drew Lock could step up and actually win some games with them, but their receivers are okay. I guess they will get Courtland Sutton back, which is good. They have Jerry Jeudy. Noah Fant's a fantastic tight end. They lost Phillip Lindsay as running back. They need to attack offensive line in the draft. I hope they get a couple of linemen for Drew Lock and give him a little bit more time to throw the ball. But Drew Lock also needs to mature. He throws way too many risky balls, or tries to get it downfield, tries to do too much. He needs to learn to take what the defense gives him, and he actually has a lot of talent, and they could step up. But for now, I have him in the 7 to 8 wins list. Raiders, the Broncos co-division teams. The Raiders have Derek Carr, and I like Derek Carr, but the rest of the team is pretty suspect, right? Because I love Josh Jacobs. I love Darren Waller. But their offensive line, they got rid of all their offensive line pieces. Their defenses are a wreck. Henry Ruggs is like a okay receiver. Like, I wish they did not draft him in the first round last year. But they need to attack their offensive line. They need to attack defense. They may be in the JOK sweepstakes. I'm not a big fan of JOK, but more because I'm a Skins fan and I don't want us to get him because we don't have a need. I think he's more of like a strong safety rather than a linebacker, and Raiders need all the defensive help they can. So if they end up getting with JOK, I think that could be a good piece for them. But yeah, Raiders, not a very good team, but they still have a good quarterback, and John Gruden is a meh coach, so 7 to 8 wins is like their ceiling, and I don't think they're going to be a below 500 team. Next up, we have the Falcons. Falcons are the team that could beat anyone any given day because they have such a high-power offense, right? They've attacked their offensive line recently. They have Matt Ryan with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. They got Hayden Hurst at tight end. They might end up getting Kyle Pitts at number 4 if they don't decide to go with the heir apparent at the quarterback position. But they're also a team that could lose to anybody even given week, right? Like a couple years ago, I think they lost to like the Cardinals, who weren't very good, and then they beat the 11-2 49ers. Like, they're a team that's so weird, so wonky, and they always end up around 500 or a little bit below. They have occasional seasons. Obviously, they went to the Super Bowl a few years ago where they actually step up, but then they have a season like last year where they end up the 4th overall pick. So, not a very good team. We'll see what the new coach brings, but for now, I have them in the 7 to 8 list. Bears are a great defense. Bears have an awesome defense, and they just got Allen Robinson back at wide receiver. I like David Montgomery as an interesting tight end. They just have to figure out the quarterback spot. Their quarterback spot is so bad. They have Andy Dalton, they paid way too much. They paid him like $10 million. He is not good at all. And I like Cole Kmet. I like some of their defense, of course, Khalil Mack, Quinn, Eddie Jackson. So I like the Bears in a way, but their quarterback and head coach, I don't know, Nagy's still there, right? So I have them below 500. They were 8-8 last year. I don't see them getting much better, especially with a downgrade. I can't believe I'm saying this. They had Mitch Trubisky, and they downgraded at quarterback. So Bears, not very good. Now, the last team in this I have is the Eagles. The Eagles, they're getting old. They're getting old, man. They're getting very, very old. They still have yet to figure out the wide receiver position. They keep trying to attack it in the first and second round every single year, it seems like, and they keep coming up empty. Jalen Reagor, I don't know why he was a first-round pick when they had Justin Jefferson on the board. Stupid. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside hasn't worked out. Alshon Jeffrey's gone. They're probably going to go wide receiver again in the first round this year to see if they can give Jalen Hurts anything to throw to. The offensive line is getting older and beat up, even though they're really good. Then the front 7 has been always really good for them, but they're getting older. So Fletcher Cox is getting up there in age. So we'll see what they can bring. But for now, I have them as a just below 500 team. And, they're probably one of the best teams in this rankings, though. If I had to say, maybe it was like the Bears, because if the Bears figured out the quarterback position, they could be really good. Like if I was ordering it, I'd probably put it in this order for this tier. But I just see all these teams as below 500. Okay, so now teams with a ceiling of going just above 500. And we'll start with if Joe Burrow can come back healthy. And the Bengals are a very interesting team. They have Joe Mixon. I like their young receiver group. I think they're going to draft Penei Sewell at number 5 to finally get some help to protect the young quarterback. And the offense is really good. And at one point, even when they were 0-5, PFF actually had the Bengals as the 16th best team overall. So they have some nice young pieces that are building. And I think that they could be a team that surprises some people, especially if Joe Burrow comes back healthy. Continuing on that, another young quarterback, and in this list, is Kyler Murray. Another team where I think they have a great quarterback. They have DeAndre Hopkins. They need to figure out the running back spot. I know they lost Kenyon Drake in free agency. So we'll see what they do there. They also need some offensive line help and defense. So they're a team that definitely needs some help. But when you have a young quarterback as talented as Kyler Murray, your ceiling is going to be a little bit higher than the rest of the league. So Kyler Murray is a great young quarterback, great two-way quarterback. So I can see their ceiling being in that 9-10 win range. We have the Chargers. Same philosophy, right? Nice young quarterback. He's got some good weapons over there. They might get him another one in the draft. They may even draft him a left tackle and maybe Christian Darrisaw or somebody to help protect him. And they have an interesting young defense, right? So it's not a terrible team, but Justin Herbert, he is a guy that has shocked the world in some senses. Nobody thought that he was going to be as good or better than Joe Burrow and Tua. And this guy absolutely crushed his rookie season. We'll see if they don't have a sophomore slump. But the Chargers could be a team. They're in a tough division, right? But at the same time, the Raiders have gone down, Broncos, but they still in the division with Kansas City. So 9-10 wins, right above 500 is probably their ceiling. And we'll see what they can do. Continuing on, same exact theme again. But I think they're probably the best team in this list. And that is the Dolphins. The Dolphins, if Tua hits, they could be up here. Or maybe even here. Because they're going to have some interesting weapons. Because they're probably going to get Jamar Chase in this draft. They already have Devontae Parker. They got Will Fuller if he can stay healthy. They don't have much of a running back, and their defense is growing. They have that great Xavier Howard corner. So they got to get some edge rush, and they got to get some they're going to get another receiver for him, but they're going to get some interesting pieces in this draft. And the Dolphins also have a couple of first rounders, a couple of early picks. So I like Miami Dolphins in this spot. But if Tua actually turns out, if Tua was as good as what Justin Herbert last year, I would put him up here. Definitely. They're probably one of the better teams on this tier. Continuing on. We're going to go with the Giants here. And the Giants are a nice, well-built team. They are similar to Tua. They have to figure out if Daniel Jones can get anything going. This team is built to be really, really good. They hit offensive line with Andrew Thomas last year. Will Hernandez is still over there. And I love Blake Martinez at middle linebacker. They have James Bradbury at corner. They re-signed Lawrence, I believe it is. So they got a good, solid team around Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has got to figure it out. They'll get Saquon Barkley back. They got Kenny Golladay in free agency. He is primed to have a fantastic, fantastic season. He's got to get there because this is another team similar to the Dolphins. If their quarterback hits, their teams are built well enough where they could shoot up this board, no doubt. All right, continuing on. I like the Panthers in this list, and the Panthers have been quietly building a really nice squad. They got Hassan Riddick. They have Brian Burns from the draft a couple years ago. They just got Sam Darnold, who could be a step up if he can figure it out. Similar to these three, right? If they hit on their quarterback, they could go up. I really like the team that the Panthers are building. I love their young receiver duo in DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. I put them in that 9-10 win tier for now, but these three are probably the better teams in this list. Continuing on, San Francisco. San Francisco, extremely well coached in Kyle Shanahan. They still have a nice defense in general, really. They got a great run game. They have to hit the quarterback, and they're in prime spot to get one of their quarterbacks. I think they're going to get Justin Fields, and Justin Fields is a guy that really could help this team, especially in the run game, where Kyle Shanahan's already one of the best offensive minds when it comes to a run system because he had his dad, Mike Shanahan. And San Francisco is a team, they were 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. Last year they had a down year due to injuries. They'll get Nick Bosa back. I like San Francisco's chances to have a nice season. We'll see where they end up. But for now, I put them in that 9-10 win range. This is the biggest category for sure. So I got a couple more. I'm going to put my team in this list. Another team similar to the Niners, got to figure out the quarterback spot, but they have a fantastic young defense. That defensive line is phenomenal. They have to hit the linebacker spot, but they got a nice corner in William Jackson III. So they're a team that could be a very, very, very good team. But the quarterback right now, Ryan Fitzpatrick, you don't know what you're going to get week in and week out. Some nice young weapons. I love Terry McLaurin. Antonio Gibson's over there. Their offensive line played pretty well. They're kind of a patchwork offensive line, but they played really, really well last year. I think they were like 6th overall according to PFF. I think they will attack the left tackle position and the linebacker spot, but the quarterback is their big problem. And so we'll see what they can get out of the quarterback play for them to be. But I think their ceiling's around just above 500 win team for now. I know a lot of Skins fans think we're going to the Super Bowl or something crazy. We're not there yet. We're still a building team. We're still a young team, but I like the direction we're headed. And the last team in this category is the Minnesota Vikings. And Minnesota Vikings doesn't really fit any of these other teams because they have a quarterback in Kirk Cousins. But they're actually going the other way, I feel like, because they were like around 8-8 last year, I think, or 7-9. That's probably where they'll end up, but I have their ceiling as 9 to 10 wins because they still have a competent quarterback in Kirk Cousins. Justin Jefferson crushed it last year. They still have Thielen. Dalvin Cook's good. Their defense is a little bit aging. They did sign a defensive lineman from the Giants, Tomlinson, I believe. So we'll see what the Vikings can do. I also really like Mike Zimmer as a head coach. So I got them right there in the middle of the pack. Who knows what the Vikings can do, but they're not really in the same vein as these other guys, but they're still ceiling around 9-10 wins. All right, moving on to the 11 and 12 win teams at the top, and we'll start with the Saints. Now, the Saints have Jameis Winston, so that first thought is kind of like, how in the world would you have them as an 11 and 12 win team? But they were basically undefeated with Teddy Bridgewater, I believe. I don't know if they even lost a single game when Teddy Bridgewater was there, because this team has so many different ways to beat you. That defense is awesome. They're aging a little bit, but they're awesome. They still have a great offensive line. The Alvin Kamara is a freak of nature. You got Michael Thomas, slant boy, some call him, but he's still a good receiver. So they could beat you in so many different ways, especially with Taysom Hill as well. So and Sean Payton's a great, great head coach. So I think that they're still always going to be in this tier, even without Drew Brees, because of how well their team is put together all around. And they somehow maintained basically everybody. Like everybody of note that they thought they were going to lose. Like Demario Davis took a pay cut. Like Alvin Kamara took a pay cut. Everybody took a pay cut somehow, or like a restructure deal to stay on the team. So they'll still be another really, really good team down there in New Orleans. Moving on. Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. They still have Russell. That's the deal, right? But their offensive line's terrible and their defense is super suspect. But as long as you have Russell Wilson, you could always win 11-12 games. Pete Carroll might be on his last leg. There seems to be feuds over there between him and Russell. I know there was a couple of reports that apparently Russell is having the best time now with the Seahawks. We'll see. But they didn't address their O-line really. I think they got one O-lineman from the Raiders or something, but they still have to figure out how to protect Russell Wilson. They have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Chris Carson's a nice young running back, so the offense is nice. The defense still had Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams. So they just lost their corner, Griffin, but we'll see what Pete Carroll and the Seahawks can do, but they're always a really, really, really good team with Russell Wilson at the head. Keep going here. Steelers really fell apart towards the end of last year. They lost 4 out of their last 5 games, but they were 11-0 before that, and they got crushed against the Browns in that playoff game. But it was kind of a weird game, right? And they actually weren't too far out of it, even with that terrible start to that game. They were climbing their way back. But TJ Watt, absolute monster. I like Mika Fitzpatrick as a safety. Devin Bush at linebacker. That defense is still going to be very, very scary to play against. And the offense still has Big Ben. I know some people love to hate on Big Ben, but the dude can still sling the ball around. And I think 11-12 wins for the Steelers is still very, very doable. I think they may go running back in the draft or maybe O-line to help protect, but they have to get a running back at some point because their running back situation is garbage. Billy Goat Snell. But yeah, it's not good for the Steelers as far as running back. But overall, I still think that they're a really, really good team. I still like Mike Tomlin as a head coach. And 11-12 wins for the Steelers is reasonable to me. All right. Then we have the Titans. Titans are a team, Ryan Tannehill is just not a top-tier quarterback. He plays really, really well. They lost Corey Davis. They still have A.J. Brown. Of course, they still have King Henry, right? Derrick Henry. And the defense is extremely well coached with Mike Vrabel. So they're a really good team. So 11-12 wins is definitely doable for them. But I just can't quite put them over the hump because Ryan Tannehill has played great. They have them at a good wins per year, but it's just not enough to really put them over the hump. So the Titans will stay here at 11-12 wins. Now, the last team, especially my fans are going to hate me for, is the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys just got Dak Prescott back. Their O-line will come back healthy. Then they have great receiving core with CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Michael Gallup. They still have Zeke Elliott. I know he took a down year last year, but we'll see what he comes back as. They got to figure out their defense situation. They just hired Dan Quinn from Atlanta, which is suspect at best. But they still have a great quarterback in Dak Prescott. They got great weapons, so the offense should be able to keep them in some games as long as everybody stays healthy. Of course, if they don't stay healthy, then they could tank again. But for now, I have them as their ceiling 11-12 and the favorites to win the NFC East for now. Now, that is the tier for 11 and 12 wins. So here we go. Now we got 8 teams left, and these teams are the ones that I think could win 12 or more. And honestly, I think all of these teams are your potential Super Bowl winners. I don't think any of these teams in here are going to win the Super Bowl this year, but here's your 8 that could win the Super Bowl. Now, we'll start with the 12-13 wins, and we're going to put the Ravens in there first. And they still have Lamar Jackson. They still have to figure out the receiving position. Hopefully they can retain Orlando Brown, and they'll have one of the best tackle duos in the league with Ronnie Stanley and Orlando Brown. So great offensive line for a fantastic run game they have. I really just wish they could go through the roof if they did not try to run the ball as much with Lamar Jackson. Don't do as many designed runs for Lamar. Lamar needs to be put in the pocket, look to throw, and if nothing's there, when the pocket breaks down, that's when his magic happens. That's when he's at his best. He makes guys miss in the backfield, then the defense has to spread out because they're guarding the receivers, and then he finds ways to zigzag through the defense, and that's the ticket for him to succeed. But they just keep handing him too many designed runs throughout the game, and I just hate it for him because I think he could be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, if not the best, if they used him properly. I still like Pat Mahomes, but Lamar Jackson is a special dude, like one of the best. He's probably the best weapon, right? Maybe you don't call him the quarterback, just as the quarterback, but he is the best weapon in the NFL because he can do so many different things at so many different levels. And I love Lamar Jackson, and they're still always going to be in that 12-13 wins mark with John Harbaugh at head coach, Lamar Jackson at the helm. All right. I have the Rams in this 12-13 list. Now, they got Matthew Stafford, and I like Matthew Stafford. That's why I think they can be a Super Bowl champion team. They still have Aaron Donald, one of the best players, especially defensive players in the league. And they have Sean McVay, one of the best offensive minds. So I really like the Rams. I just don't put them in that 14 win. But at the same time, I think they're a really, really good team. Hopefully they avoid injury because injured Aaron Donald really, really hurt their defense last year. So if he can stay healthy, then that defense can stay good. But they did lose John Johnson, the safety, so they'll have to figure out how to replace him. But they're still a really, really good football team. All right, Browns. Browns are a really wild card team, okay? And I know I put them in the Super Bowl conversation. They're probably one of the worst out of the 8, have the worst chances. But if Baker Mayfield figures out how to be a top-tier quarterback, he's got weapons. OBJ, Jarvis Landry. I love their running game is the best duo in football. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. That duo is insane. They have a nice young offensive line, so I like their offensive line. They have to figure out the linebacker position on defense, but if they do that, they have Myles Garrett, and I like the Browns' chances to definitely make the playoffs and be a 12-13 win team this year all of a sudden. Their coach seems to be a lot better than that Freddie Kitchens character. The Kitchens guy was garbage, but I like the Browns in this year, and we'll see what they can do. Last team in this list is probably the best team out of these, and that's the Bills. And I love Josh Allen, right? Why can't I move him? But Josh Allen is awesome, and he has great mobility. He has a cannon for an arm. Him and Stephon Diggs were one of the most dangerous duos, minus maybe Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. They were killing it last year. And I like the Bills. Now, the Bills, the reason they're not in here is because their defense is a little bit lacking. They got to hit that front 7, but they have a top-tier offensive line. The safety duo is insane with Poyer, and I can't remember the other guy's name off the top of my head. They still have Tre'Davious White at corner, but that front 7 needs to be fixed for them to really get over the hump. And they could do that in the draft, but we'll see where they end up. But I like their chances to be a 12-13 win team. All right, so that's the 12-13. And then here is the final 4. You see them. I'm just going to throw them up there. Kansas City, Green Bay, Colts, and the Buccaneers. And just touch base, of course, everybody gets the Chiefs. Andy Reid, awesome coach. Pat Mahomes, top-tier quarterback. They have Travis Kelce. They have Tyreek Hill. The defense is still really, really good, but their offensive line needs to be fixed. So they're going to attack the offensive line quickly because they lost both their tackles, I believe. And you could see what happens once they got into the Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes was running for his life, but he's still unbelievable. So Kansas City Chiefs, still a top-tier team. Buccaneers basically brought back everybody of note for this season, and they just won the Super Bowl. I think they're one of the most complete teams in the NFL. Tom Brady, old as he is, he's still really, really good. And, of course, you got awesome receivers. They retained Chris Godwin. You got Mike Evans. They haven't brought back Antonio Brown yet. We'll see if they end up doing that. But I believe Gronk is already back. They have Cameron Brate, an awesome offensive line. I really like their offensive line. Tristan Wirfs was a great first-round pick for them. Devin White is a monster at the linebacker spot. They still have Sue, JPP, Vita Vea, some of the guys on the defensive line. Winfield Jr., their safety, will have another year. They might want to get a corner and maybe another edge rusher or something like that in the draft, and Tampa Bay will still be right there in the conversation. Maybe a receiver also to replace Antonio Brown, and they will definitely be in the conversation. I'm going to go with talk about the Packers next because Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, great offensive trio. They've also have a nice offensive line. Jair Alexander at corner is awesome. So this team, if you have Aaron Rodgers, you have a shot, right? So similar to Russell Wilson, but I think this team is just built better than the Seahawks. And I like the Packers. They're always going to be high on the list. And last but not least is the Colts. And Colts are one of these teams, man, I love what their GM is doing. Their GM has been fantastic. How do you have an 11-win team and then the next year have the third most cap space? Is there ever been a better sign of a more well-built team? You're an 11-win team. 11 wins, and you took the Bills to the wire last year with an old man Phillip Rivers. They almost won that game. And then you have like $77 million in cap space. Unbelievable. Then they got Carson Wentz in a nice trade. They lost a third-round pick this year and a second-round pick next year that could turn into a first depending on how Carson Wentz does. But that's pennies because they also restructured Carson Wentz's contract where he's only making around $24 to $25 million a year for the next 4 years or something. So that's super cheap at quarterback. Carson Wentz, fantastic. He just got to stay healthy. And this team, they are extremely good because they have been hitting on all of their draft picks. So I like the Colts to be in this conversation. I think that's the top 4 teams. I could definitely see a rematch here in the NFC Championship, and then the Colts replacing the Bills in the AFC Championship, and eventually 2 of these teams would go to the Super Bowl and win. But that's my tier list. That is my tier, and that's my thought process on each one. You guys let me know what you think about in the comments below. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Also, in the description below, there is a Discord link. Hop in our Discord and come talk some football. And last but not least, there are donation links in the description below. If you feel so kind, you could donate to the channel. There's my tier list. Tear it apart in the comments. I know you guys will. I know you guys will hate on me. But until next time, see ya!